Rivera, and welcome to Cooking with the Keefes. I'm Patrick Keefe.
And I'm Jen Keefe.
And today we are going to be making our Super Bowl special, some classic items to represent your New England Patriots as they face off against the Seattle Seahawks.
Yep. We beat them once, we're going to do it again.
We certainly are. And we're going to do some New England stuff because, of course, we're from New England. And we hope that, if you want to do something like this during the Super Bowl, when you're hosting some guests, we thought it would be appropriate, although I know that we're going to do some lobster, but what's more New England than lobster?
I can't think of anything.
And Jen's going to be making what?
Some traditional chocolate chip cookies, and for those of you that didn't know, they were invented or came about right here in New England, right in Massachusetts. And so we're going to be making not the classic Toll House chocolate chip cookie. We will be using their chocolate chips, but it's a little bit, we're going to kick it up a notch, make them extra special.
So Toll House cookies in Whitman, Mass.
Yes.
And, I know there's a little bit of a story, but rumor has it that there was an accident, and that's why chocolate chip cookies were, quote unquote, invented.
Yes. I think there's a couple of different versions of that story out there, but yes, we'll go with the fun version where they dumped them in by accident.
Well, I trust your opinion. You're more of the pro when it comes to that stuff.
I heard that the innkeeper that made these sugar cookies wanted to make them chocolate. So she mixed in some chopped chocolate, and when she baked them, the chunks didn't melt and make the cookies chocolate like she intended them to, but they were still really delicious, and that's how chocolate chips were invented.
And obviously you can always Google everything, so sometimes we don't Google things just so we can have these disputes and stick with our story. But I had heard that they were making these sugar cookies, and one of the bakers accidentally dropped in some chocolate chips and didn't want to throw out the batch, and there came the chocolate chunk or chocolate chip cookies.
Either way, delicious and
right?
A classic.
Exactly. So while we're doing lobster, we're going to do lobster rolls. I thought it would be a good opportunity to show you what a classic lobster looks like. Typically, the lobsters that we get in Massachusetts are going to come from Maine or Canada. And, they'll call them Maine lobsters, but, you get a lot of the similar types of hard shell lobsters all the way up the New England coast. Of course, right here in Revere, people have lobster pots or lobster traps right off the cold waters. The colder the water, the darker the area, the more the lobsters thrive. But lobsters are pretty iconic in this area. Certainly a lot more expensive than they used to be. They used to be somewhat of peasant food, or even I was told the prisoners used to be fed them. But I want to give you a quick, people always ask, some people like male lobsters better, some people like female lobsters better. And one of the major differences in each is female lobsters will carry eggs in roe, male lobsters won't. And they tend to be, they say the female lobsters tend to be a little sweeter. Right?
Yep.
I don't. That doesn't surprise me. And but some people don't like if they see that red, red row running through the back of the. Oh, see that?
It's getting feisty.
The row will be right in the tail area here. But one of the easiest ways to look is, I didn't ask, but I went to the grocery store and I said, "Can I get 2 lobsters?" And it looks like I got a male and a female lobster. So the easiest way to tell is typically, the male lobster, the female lobster will have a little bit of a wider tail. Some people will cut right here. I'm not going to do this on TV. I want to eventually get reelected, and I don't want this to be used against me. But but I am going to just put these in head first. I've never heard a lobster make any noises, and and we enjoy them. But we're going to cook these. I always say about these are about 1 1/3, 1 1/4, a little over 1 1/4 pound lobsters. Some people call them chicks or chicken lobsters, but they're a little bit bigger. They take between 12 and 14 minutes of rolling boil, and I say rolling boil. So you see here, and then we'll time them. And I always cook, if I boil seafood, shrimp, I always like to have salted water. Taste like the ocean, so I heavily salt it. You really cannot over salt the boiling water for lobsters. You're not going to drink it, but it's going to add more salt into this and briny flavor into the lobster meat. So we're going to go quick, and we're going to cover 12 minutes, 12, 13 minutes. We're going to quick throw them in there and cover them up and turn the heat up. So looking at my clock, and I'm going to judge 12 minutes. But here's the lobster mix, and I think it adds just a little bit of flavor, but I don't like to overpower, certainly not lobster meat. So I put about 3 tablespoons of mayonnaise. And this is going to be good for about 2 to 3 rolls. Depends on how much mayonnaise you like. I don't love a lot of mayonnaise, so I like to just coat the lobster. A quick teaspoon of dill and some chives. And chives, if you don't know, are green onions. They're smaller than a scallion, and I like them to be a little bit. I think they're a little sweeter than a scallion, but they're very similar. If you can't find chives in the store, to get scallions, just cut them really finely. And you'll see, I'm just cutting them nice and small. We'll put that in there, and then I'll reserve a little bit more on the side for a garnish. So those lobsters are boiling. They got about 10 more minutes. And then I'm going to take a little bit of lemon juice and lemon zest. So whenever I'm cooking with lemons, I like to, why not get the free zest, right? I'm cheap. Right, Jen? Frugal.
Not cheap.
So I like to use a little zest, but not too much. And if you look, I just like to get the yellow of an orange or lemon or whatever the rind is. You don't want to go too far down to the white. The white's very bitter. That's the pith. So you don't want to get too much of the rind, too much beyond the rind, and you get some of the essential oils that are in that skin. So there I have my little mix, and it's going to be a little bit more runny than regular hearty mayo. A little salt, pepper, and a little of that celery salt, and that we will reserve for when the lobsters come out. And I'll do 1 lobster in the mayo mix, and I'll do 1 lobster in the butter mix. And they'll make 1 lobster, 1 small or chicken lobster, is about 4.5 ounces of whole meat. If you get as much as you can even maybe get up to 5 ounces. Female lobsters tend to be have a little bit more meat.
Yep.
So the tails, like I said, tails are usually a little bit bigger. So depending, we'll go from there. But I'm going to show you the best ways to get all the meat out of the lobster as well, and then of course what you can do after. But big thing about today, and Jen doesn't want to do it. We were warned by our son to not throw down, but this is the official throwdown,
yes.
And she's going to make her cookies. But we all know that the Patriots have had an unbelievable season, and we're excited that hopefully they'll cap it off with the Super Bowl. However, they've already done awesome. But all of New England has fallen in love, not just with Drake May, but with
Ann Michael May.
Yeah.
And she has been dubbed the Queen in the North and also the First Lady of New England. And so from one First Lady to another, who both love to bake, who are married to excellent team leaders.
Don't you say that. But listen, I might be biased, but the Queen of Revere, the First Lady of Revere, is a unbelievable baker. And I think you all know that because we've done a number of shows. But I'll say this right now. No offense to Ann Michael or Drake. We love you. You guys are superstars. You're filthy rich. Fantastic. We are not. We'll take you down in the kitchen any day of the week.
Any day.
We'll go to Foxborough. We'll go to wherever you live in the state.
Yep.
Or you can come here to Revere. But we will take you down. You got that? She will take you down. On the field, you got that.
Yes.
On the plane, no problem. In Revere, in the kitchen, it's over.
Yes, but I've been told by my son that nobody can compete with Ann Michael May. So I am just saying we could have a really nice collaboration. Patriots, New England Patriots, Revere Patriots, bakers,
maybe I'll
team
even
players.
Maybe I'll even splurge and get a May jersey and retire my Gronk or my Brady.
Yes, I know. I think it's time for an upgrade.
He's done an awesome job.
Yes.
So I got some brioche rolls, and what I did was, you see how they come all together? They're usually cooked in one pan with a little separation. So I like to cut one flat edge, and then I'll slice right down the middle so you can make that pocket for the meat. If you were doing a hot dog, that'd be great. We're doing lobster rolls. But I like to get the brioche rolls. And then you have that flat edge there. And again, I'm going to cut right down the middle, about halfway down. Not all the way down, because then they'll flop open like a piece of white bread. All right, there you go. Nice flat edge. Halfway down the middle, flat edge, and then I'll get that butt end. So what I do is when I toast it, and I make those nice buttered rolls, they're going to toast really well on both sides.
So now we've got both of our chocolate chip stories.
Mm-hmm.
We now have mayo and butter, so 2 different teams, mayo team, butter team. Buns, toasted or untoasted?
Oh, well, a couple things. If you knew a lot of traditional New England lobster, toasted. Bob says toasted. I'm all about the toasted.
I am too.
The more butter, the better. And I'll even say, I'm team butter, warm butter.
Yeah, me too.
Which is more of a, I would say it's more of a Connecticut. Some people call it a Connecticut or a Rhode Island style roll. But you can see they'll start to float, and they'll start to separate from the bodies. The tail will start to separate. I know these have 1 more minute, and I'm gonna remove them from the water and run them under cold water. You can stick them in the refrigerator, or you can just shock them with ice. You do want to cool them down pretty quickly, so they're not going to continue to cook. Here's your lobster. There are some pointy parts, so be careful. You can just separate the tail right from the body, just like that. And we're going to leave this here. So this is what people will call the tamale that's in the body. And you see, some people don't like it. Some people think it's unappetizing. I can tell you, if you're at a restaurant and you were to, people suck the crawfish heads. That's what you might suck and get a lot of good flavor. This one's usually a little easier to take the meat out. And I'll go about 2 of those firm, whatever you would like, firm parts right here. And I'll just go lightly with a knife. Not my favorite knife, a knife that I just like to work with. I call them a little heavy duty knife. I'm not going to use my very expensive knife because you definitely mess up the edge a little bit. And just kind of crack the bottom, the top. And you'll see, I'll just cut that in half. Then I take the pincher point and I wiggle side to side and then up. Side to side and then up. The reason I do that is I like to get this cartilage out of the middle. So that this cartilage runs right through the middle of that claw. You pull it out, you don't have to worry about getting into that cartilage in your mouth. And I will say, it's really beautiful when you get the whole piece just like that. Okay, this is just some of the protein that sticks. It's all fine. Okay, and I a long time ago when I worked in the hotel, the chef said I needed 200 of these every day, and you had to be fully attached for one dish that he made, and he made a lot of them. So it was a challenge when we were cooking 200-300 lobsters at a time to get 200 of them, because inherently, you do it and you break one. So it was really detailed, and like this one here's a tough one because it's a little firmer. You gotta go side to side and then up. And you see I kept that together too, but this guy's, the cartilage is completely removed. Nothing else is in there. And I'm gonna go right in there. Whole lobster. I like to keep that. If I can get it whole, I keep it whole. The knuckles are already broken up. You can use a cracker. I think the easiest way is to scoop with a small demi-tasse spoon. Okay, you can use the back of a demi-tasse spoon and literally scoop out that meat. And you get one whole piece of knuckle. Okay, and you can scoop out this other piece. So that's all the meat. There is nothing else in there. I'm gonna put that there. I'm gonna put that there. No meat. Same here. Knuckle, scoop, and it comes out whole. And I'll show you if I can keep this whole lobster as close together as possible. You'll see it is all the meat. And the reason I save the shells is I can make a stock later on. Okay, so we got claw, knuckle. Should be 2 pieces of knuckle. The tail to me is the easiest. You can kind of crack off the bottom part of the tail, and that keeps the tail intact. And you squeeze together, so it cracks the shell right down the middle, and then you pull it apart. Yes, you can cut yourself, so you can wear gloves or something else. And there's the tail. And you saw this is the roe. This is some of that roe. Like I said, this is the female. You see here? If it's a little green, it's because if it's fully red, it's fully cooked. Fully cooked. But as it gets closer to the body, that green roe is in here, so it's a little harder to get fully cooked. But this to me is exactly how I want it cooked. I don't want it to be firm red. Again, I don't like it in my lobster roll. I like it in my stock. So I'll peel that back and put it in the bowl for my stock. But that's the roe. People love it. They make butter out of it. They put it on pasta. And there you have. And then the last piece of the tail, we'll clean off this board. We'll do this here. while I'm doing this, why don't you start on yours?
Yeah, sure. So what we're doing to start is we're going to brown some butter. For this particular recipe, you're going to use 14 tablespoons total. You're going to put 4 tablespoons of softened butter in a bowl, and you're going to take the other 10 and we're going to brown it. And the reason that you're only browning some of the butter, not all of it, is because when you're browning butter, what you're essentially doing is cooking off all the water. And you're taking all of those milk fats that we were talking about earlier for the butter for the rolls, and you're toasting them. And that's where that toasty brown flavor comes from, is when you are toasting those milk fats, it's getting that nice caramely, buttery taste, and we're kind of getting that to come out, and that's what gives these cookies some extra flavor. So you don't want to burn it. It burns very quickly. So if, I don't know, Bob, if you can get in here and see that color, how it gets really golden brown, you want to whisk the entire time that you're doing it and get that nice golden brown color. And then what you're going to do is take your hot brown butter, and we're going to put that, here, I'll come over here. You're gonna get that and pour that over your softened butter. And you're gonna see all those brown bits at the bottom of your pot. And you're gonna wanna make sure you scrape all of those out. That's where all of your flavor is going to come from. So don't mind the scraping sound. You want to make sure you get everything you can in there, because that's what we want.
So this is my favorite cookie that Jen makes.
Yes.
By far. And the problem is I'll eat a dozen of them by myself.
Easily. So these are definitely my most requested cookie by far by anybody. I've been making them for years now. And they're just that perfect, crispy, chewy. We use 2 different kinds of chocolate. 2 different kinds of sugar, so definitely, and they've also got like a nice little salty topping, so you kind of get that sweet, salty, just kind of hits a whole lot of notes. So we're gonna make sure that that butter melts all the way down, and using that extra butter is what's gonna incorporate more moisture back into our cookie, which is why we don't brown the whole thing. All right, so that's all melted. How are you doing, Pat?
I'm almost there with all the lobster meat, as you can see here, and I'm reserving all the bodies. And again, I'm not going to show you what I'm going to do with the bodies, but I would roast these down in a saute pan with some vegetables, make a nice stock, and then celery, carrots, onion, bay leaf, thyme, put them in a pot, cook them down, maybe even a little tomato paste, and then in water, fill it with water, and then take all the flavor and then put it in the freezer. And whenever I'm making a pasta dish with lobster or anything like that, I would have an instant lobster stock. And it's like, it's liquid gold, you know, so it's really great to have. If you're making a fish dish, it's just, you can make so many things. You can make a bisque, but I definitely you don't want to waste it, because we talked about price, and at $13 a pound, these 2 lobsters, for instance, cost $36. So you want to get your money's worth out of everything, right?
I will say, in New England, we're very spoiled when it comes to our food options and our seafood options and getting some really good stuff. But I can, what we'll do is we'll let this butter cool down a little bit so that we can finish the cookies with the other ingredients after Pat's done mixing up his lobster rolls. And we'll come back to that.
So we have all our ingredients and we're ready to assemble. We're going to do one of each. I'm going to split the lobster's tails right in half. And if you see this, sometimes you'll have the intestinal line running through. You can just peel that right out. You obviously don't want to eat that. That's the intestinal tract. You can only, I think you know what that is, right? And that's some of that roe. I'll reserve some of that off to the side as well. Okay, we're just going to leave that over there. But the roe is, it's totally okay to be in there. Sometimes even like a little bit. I'll cut them into bite-sized pieces. So that's one. And this is going to do about 2 lobsters. I'll take that tail, that claw, cut it right in half. And as I said, there's no cartilage in there because I took it out. Cut that right in half. And then here's all the knuckle and some of the leg meat from one. And here's the other one over here. But I'm going to use this one for the buttered one. No roe in this one because this is the male. You will see sometimes tamale, but you see there's none of that red. All right, and this is going to go in the pot with warm butter. You can kind of prepare these ahead of time and let them sit. It's okay if they just steep in the raw butter. We're going to add our mayo mix that we already talked about. You really don't have to season this much because the mayo mix had the seasoning already on it. And you see, I don't even need to add any more. It's plenty. I'll add a little bit of salt, but I'm going to add a little bit more of that chive. Here, and there, right in there, a little salt. You can set them on a plate with our nice bread.
Look at those buns.
What'd you say?
I said, look at those buns.
You're talking about me, right? This is a family-friendly show. All right. So, I'll take half the meat. Nice right there. And these are, so obviously, you're not doing these for an everyday party, but this is the Super Bowl, and we're representing New England. And when you think about it, $35 a lobster. You can make these smaller. You can make, probably about
little sliders. Yeah,
little sliders, and you'll be the hit of the party, especially if you're hosting your friends. And just you're representing New England, and that's good. Right on top, and then I'll do the same with the butter, nicely mixed. And that's all that melted butter, but it is not separated. It's still creamy looking. Yep. And right over the top. And I'm not shy with the butter here. It's gonna soak up. That's why you gotta get a decent bread. If you do like a New England hot dog roll, they're a little too soft, I think. They're delicious. They're good for they're good for the Mayo one. Yep. But you see, I stuffed these. I could have definitely made 4 more rolls, I think.
Agreed.
I think Adriana's going to ask me to take one home, so we'll do that.
I wonder if she's team butter or mayo.
We're going to find out. And then we got our chips. And we're going to sit those there. What are you, team mayo or team butter, Jen?
I'm team butter, but I do enjoy the mayo once in a while. I tend to lean crab rolls with the mayo.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I like both, but.
So just some chips, just like that. And you got yourself a Super Bowl winning combination of lobster roll and some potato chips. And Jen's gonna finish up with our cookies.
Yes. Okay, so we're back with our ingredients for our chocolate chip cookies. We've got the browned butter that we put over the 4 tablespoons of softened butter, so 14 tablespoons of butter total. And we're going to add in our sugars to let those melt. So we're going to do 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. And your brown sugar you're going to want to pack nice and tight into the cup and level it. That's 1/2 cup. And I always add extra chocolate chips when I weigh them out and measure them, because we always have people who like to eat the chocolate chips. So I just plan ahead. I used to get upset and be like, what are you doing? You're ruining my recipe. Just account for it, and then there's no fights. And then we're gonna add in 1/2 cup of white sugar. So you do 2 different kinds of sugar, because the brown sugar gives a nice molassesy flavor. It also makes the cookie more chewy. So that's why we've got 2 different kinds of sugar.
I'm only here for comedic relief.
Yes. And to get all the meat out of the lobsters, because no one else is doing that.
Did you preheat the oven, you said?
I did. I preheated the oven to 375 degrees. I also prepared my pans with some parchment paper. I always use parchment paper when I'm baking my cookies.
No spray?
Nope, I don't do any spray. That way you're not adding any fats or oils to your cookies that you don't want.
The butter gives a good flavor.
Exactly.
Butter in cookies is much better
Exactly.
than oil. You get flavor.
Agreed. So
after cholesterol too, probably.
So after we add our sugars, and we're going to add in our vanilla, which is a good amount actually compared to most cookie recipes. This has 2.5 teaspoons. So I got 1, 2.5.
After the butter, the sugar, the chocolate chip cookies,
yeah,
the vanilla is
Vanilla is key. So I use real vanilla. I don't use imitation vanilla. Obviously use what you have, but I am prone to use real vanilla. You could use vanilla bean paste. You could use vanilla extract. You could use either. And you just mix that in. And then we're gonna follow with our egg, 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. Adding an extra egg yolk to your cookies is going to make it a little more dense, a little more chewy, a little more rich. And that's what these are. They get that nice, because of all the butter, it gets nice and crispy on the edges and nice and chewy in the middle. And they stay nice and chewy. And you're gonna mix that in, make sure it's mixed really well. And this recipe is a little different than most. Usually you just go ahead and start throwing everything in. We actually let this batter rest for like 30 seconds, and then you mix again, and then you let it rest. So while we're doing that and letting it resting, you'll see that the batter will start to lighten up a little bit as you mix in that egg and that egg yolk.
Looks more pale.
Yep, right? Looks more pale. And you're emulsifying the eggs into the sugar, and the sugars are melting. So that's why we let it rest, is to kind of let those sugars melt a little bit. 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt, regular kosher salt, which is what I always use, and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda with 1 3/4 cup of flour. And you just whisk that.
Baking soda, not powder.
Baking soda, not baking powder. Yes.
You want to tell us the difference?
So difference is 1 activates in liquid and 1 activates with heat. So the baking soda activates with heat when it hits the oven, whereas baking powder activates when it hits a liquid or an acid.
Sometimes it's double acting too.
Yes, double act. Most baking powders that you get nowadays are double acting baking powder, so that they activate also with the heat. So now that we've let that rest for a minute, we get that going. Mix it again. And then we're gonna let that rest again. And that's when you measure out your chocolate chips. I have 2 different kinds. I'm gonna go over what I use. So obviously we use our regular semi-sweet Toll House chocolate chips. I use about 3/4 cup, or add in, you know, an extra handful for your husband who walks by and takes all the chocolate chips. And then for another, I would say 1/2 cup, I would do the Ghirardelli bittersweet chocolate. So these are like a dark chocolate. They're bigger. So you get different kinds of chocolate in there, different size chunks and different flavors. So it's just a little bit more sophisticated, but I have never had one child ever tell me they didn't love it. So I mix those together, like I said, 3/4 cup of your semi-sweet and about 1/2 cup of your bittersweet chocolate.
You know what I like about the larger Ghirardelli?
What?
Is they don't melt completely. They still stay a little firm.
Yes.
Where the Nestle chips, the Toll House chips, tend to just get a little more soft, like a traditional Toll House cookie. So,
exactly.
like you said, I think this is a sophisticated chocolate chip cookie.
It's a little bit more sophisticated. So we're gonna go in and mix for the last
sophisticated
time.
types, not like those, not like those Mays, you know.
Oh God, we're gonna get in trouble with my son.
Come and get me, Drake. You know where to find us.
Hey, I'm down for a friendly competition of baking. I'm in.
All I know is we're down for taking down the Seattle Seahawks together.
Yes, agreed, 100%. Right. So now I'm done whisking all those ingredients together. I'm gonna bang that off, get all that off of the whisk. I'm gonna switch over to a spatula. Oh, thank you. And then we're going to stir in our flour mixture. And that's our flour, salt, and baking soda. And we're just gonna stir this until it comes together. You don't wanna overmix your cookies or any of your batters really. You always just wanna mix until incorporated. Sometimes you'll even see a couple of dry spots, and that's okay, because then you're gonna mix in your chips. And at first it's gonna look like too much flour, but it isn't. It'll all get mixed in there. You've added plenty of liquid.
And if you overmix it, it gets like gummy, not chewy, but gummy. And you don't want a chewy chocolate chip cookie. You want
it'll get tough, you know, it's just not the same texture.
You've perfected this.
I've tried. All right, so now, and you want to make sure you're scraping the bottom of your bowl. All right, now we're gonna go in, even though we have a couple of dry spots, we're gonna add all our chocolate chips. like I said, those were approximate measurements. I'm not gonna lie, probably overdo it with the chocolate chips, but I like my chocolate chip cookies to have.
There's the pat ratio too, where you gotta factor in how many I steal.
Exactly. So if he doesn't steal enough, then there's extra.
You can never go light on the chocolate chip in a chocolate chip cookie.
Agreed. So see, now no dry spots. Everything's nice and mixed, evenly incorporated. And there's only one more ingredient, but that comes at the very end. And I've got my pans right here, ready to go. And we're going to use a cookie scoop. I always use a cookie scoop because when you evenly portion your dough, it is going to cook more evenly in the oven. So you're not going to have cookies that some are done baking and some are kind of raw, and you want them all to cook the same. So cookie scoops are going to give you uniform size and evenly baked cookies. And there's one cookie there. You can make these all, I've made them all different sizes.
She gets so mad when I do that. I'm telling you, but
he enjoys it.
I know I'm probably not supposed to eat the raw egg, but kids don't do this on in real life. But
eggs are pasture.
Cookie dough is so good.
It's classic.
It is classic, and you can actually use that if you were to make your own cookie dough ice cream. You put it in the refrigerator, break them up into small balls.
Absolutely.
But because of the brown butter, it almost like feels like it's cooked.
Yes. So you can make these different sizes. This is like a 2 tablespoon size scoop. And I portion them out about 8 to a sheet. And I stagger them. They do spread. And I do like a little bit of a bigger cookie. And after you portion them out, we're going to put the finishing touch, which is a coarse sea salt. So this is the one I use. You can use, I know that they make a couple of other brands that they have at Market Basket. I get this one at Market Basket. You can use, I've used like a really nice expensive sea salt, like the Maldon sea salt, but that's not necessary. It's a little bit more pricey and a little bit more delicate, but I like the chunk of the sea salt, the coarse sea salt.
This one holds up really well. The Maldon's like more of a flake salt.
Yeah, which is more of a finishing salt.
And this is a finishing cookie salt.
Yes, exactly. We're gonna bake those in the oven. Everyone's oven's a little bit different. And I'm gonna say, usually in my oven, it's about 11 to 12 minutes. We're gonna put these in for, we'll say 10 or 11 to start, and then you check them. Once they are set around the edges and nice and browned, I will say Patrick also likes his a little well done. He likes a little extra crisp on his cookies, so I always burn, quote unquote, a couple of a couple of pans for him. Anytime I have a cookie that I think is burnt, he thinks it's perfect.
I love our cookies.
Everyone has, I like them a little underdone because I like them extra soft in the middle. So everyone has their preference. So you bake them for your family, and that's it. And we'll show you the finished product at the end. But let's go ahead and.
Well, we're gonna wait for those cookies to come out, and we'll finish them up together.
Perfect. And welcome back, everyone. We've got our cookies ready to come out of the oven, so I'm going to pull those out right now. And they look pretty good. All right.
Oh, baby.
Those are what we're going to call Patrick cookies because they're a little more brown than I would like them, but they're still delicious, a little more crunchy. We've got these here, which are more like our Jen cookie. So we've got our our butter rolls,
I don't know where you're going with
Mayo
these cookies.
rolls,
I'm not sure what's happening.
Our Patrick cookies, our Jen cookies. We got Team Dark cookies and Team Light cookie.
Yeah, we have Bob. Bob is Team Dark.
Yeah.
He's Team Crispy.
He's crispy.
He wants a crispy cookie. This is still a crispy.
Yeah.
I don't know. We might goof about it. These are really hot.
Speak of the devil.
These are hot cookies.
Crispy, but you're going to hurt yourself. Oh, boy. It's real hot. Right. Real hot. Real hot.
Bob, there he goes. The man, the myth, the legend, the guy behind the screen.
Yes.
But we have our Patriots hype, Super Bowl hype party. Get ready to rock and roll. Let's beat the Seahawks.
Yes.
And, you know, we've done it a few times, but it's all in good spirit. We know we have a wonderful New England Patriots team led by a 22, 23-year-old quarterback.
Yep,
out of
23.
North Carolina with his high school child sweetheart.
Yeah, actually, his 7th grade sweetheart, actually. They've been together since 7th grade. And we recently realized that our daughter is older than Ann Michael May.
We have been together. We have been together longer than Ann Michael May
has been alive.
And Drake May have been alive. But we're rooting for you. We hope that you're leading the team to success.
Yes.
Mike Vrabel, coach, you're doing an awesome job. Let's go Patriots. Rivera, if you're watching, we're gonna beat Seattle. So I did a pre-storm prediction. I said the Patriots would beat the Broncos by 3 scores. I meant to say 3 points, but
That's what he meant.
That's what I meant. So we're going with Patriots are going to win. They're gonna beat the Seattle Seahawks 27-14.
Ooh, okay.
I called it right now.
I like it.
Let's go. Super Bowl number 8 for the New England Patriots. 7?
Yeah, 7.
Yeah. And we're excited. So hope you enjoyed New England lobster rolls. We have our mayo roll, our warm butter roll with Cape Cod potato chips, and Jen's unbelievable cookies.
Yes. I hope you're enjoying it back there, Bob.
And thanks for watching Cooking with the Keefes. We'll see you again.